Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Smart Community Technology Design Charrette. It's a mouthful. It's another
Tongue twister.
Sage Tech Talk. Uh, Tech Talk is a collaboration between Sage and Tazergy. If you've never seen us before, it's the senior living technology version of a short version webinar. And let's just jump right into introductions. We have a guest here today, Chad. Do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yes, thank you, Jill. I'm Chad Kurdi, Senior Electrical Engineer. Work for a company called BKB Group, licensed in 37 states, master electrician in Minnesota. I look forward to sharing what I know about senior living with all of you.
Excellent. And Matt?
Oh, hi. Matt Haywood, founder, CEO of Tazergy. Tazergy is a senior living focused low voltage design, consulting, implementations, and ongoing support partner, and also a Sage member.
Yes, Sage member indeed. My name is Jill Schroeder. I am the current Sage president, and I'm so happy to be hosting this on behalf of Sage and Tazergy. I'm a senior architecture planner that gets to work with Chad every day. I will also work at BKV Group. And our firm office is out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I volunteer my time with this organization as a commitment to bring all of you relevant content to help better our design for aging community. And for those of you not familiar with SAGE, welcome, by the way, but it stands for the Society for the Advancement of Gerontological Environments. It's a membership-based organization representing and promoting collaboration between all disciplines of the senior living industry. And we plan these kinds of educational sessions and other educational content. This one presented by Matt Haywood, CEO of Tazergy, and member of Sage. It's very important to put that in there, right? It hopefully gives you insight into a topic, and with any luck, you learn something new that you can apply into your projects that you're working on right now or communities that you're designing. So these tech talks are free to you and happen every month. So if you like what you see in here today and are not a member, please consider visiting our website, sagefederation.org, for information on a Sage web membership.
Well
Matt,
done.
yes, you live in a world of tech and you have so much to tell us. And Chad, you live in a world of tech implementation and designing and planning. I'm very curious to hear from both of you on these common areas, tech. Today, we are going to review, you can see the bullet points in the description of today for talking about smart technology, anything that's outside of the resident apartment per se in any care model. But we're looking at autonomous machines. We're looking for intra-community versus inter-community,
Mhm.
programmed and non-programmed. Let's get started. Matt,
Do
you
it.
want to?
Well, uh, first off, I think we can all agree that when we typically get engaged or have these types of conversations is
Yes,
usually after the project has already started. So
true.
one, all we can say is that the time to have these conversations is certainly during your DD phase. You need to have the planning because you need the infrastructure in order to have intentional common area spaces and amenities that meet or exceed your operational intent and what you're selling and marketing this community to the local community that it's getting built in. It requires intentionality, it requires planning, and it requires infrastructure, whether that's power, Wi-Fi, internet, IoT things. That's so one, that's that's it. Don't wait.
Yeah, good
Chad, I don't
point.
know if you were kind of shaking your head like I'm not totally crazy.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. Engineers and low voltage consultants should be directly involved early on with the architects. Our firm is an AE firm, and we have the same thing. We sit with our architects immediately at the programming level. We
Hmm.
program all the systems, the lighting, the emergency system, the power system, and the low voltage. involvement, and either we do it, Matt, or somebody like yourself who's a consultant, we bring him day one into the project planning at the early stage, pre-design, or from the pre-design through the SD all the way through the construction. So I can't agree more.
So here
On the
Matt
early
said
involvement.
to jump in at DD, and Chad, you're saying to even get earlier sometimes if it's
That
ideal,
Yeah, right.
if
No
possible.
later than yeah,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
well,
In your
we
SD phase, you tend to be space planning. So it's a broader brush strokes. It's
Yeah.
less specific. You might not be selecting between systems, but you might be saying,
Yeah.
your expectations for the space, defining at least a framework, right, Chad?
Yep, absolutely. And actually, we get involved in the pre-design with our architects. Since we're a holistic firm and we have engineers and architects in-house, we get involved in sizing the information technology rooms, in sizing the IDF rooms, the MDF rooms, the location of the controllers, the lighting controllers, be it, or all the head-end equipment for your equipment, Matt, which is the cameras, the card readers, and so forth. We had
Right.
in the pre-design and the concept design, and then we carry that one through the SD all the way through. And that's how we can capture all this from, especially if I may, and then once we get into the design and the bidding, it has to be in the document so it can be bid, so it cannot be VE'd. I know Jill, you and I talked about
Yeah.
these great technologies that we have,
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
end up putting them in the system and get VE'd. We want them to be priced day one. And I don't know, Matt, maybe you say something, and I will say something about VE'd. We're constantly talking to the client about the importance of these technologies, be it the best cameras that you can put there, or be it the lighting control system that's easy to use, incorporated into the price of the project, because ultimately somebody has to pay for all these buildings to be built.
That's
So,
a
and
that's a
try to
huge
convince them.
reason for
Yeah.
sure. Budgeting, if for proper project budgeting, it doesn't matter what you attack in life, whether it's buying a house or building and planning a community. You need to be equipped with a an achievable, realistic budget that captures everything that needs to go in. And it's not easy to get there, but in order to get there, you do need to have these conversations as early on in the process. You're not going to have a six-figure low voltage budget, let's face it. Like if you do, and you hear an operator say the low voltage budget is six figures, I'm just going to tell you that you might need to lean in and say what really is in that low voltage budget,
Yeah,
you know?
100%. 100%.
So to put pressure early on to know the extent of what is all in that budget, Matt, you're saying, or
Yeah,
to
correct. I mean, the budget for us, and I think
yeah,
for us as designers, I don't mean us Tazergy,
yeah,
is meant as a placeholder. It's not
yeah,
that you're committing to buy it. It's that
yeah,
you're reserving the right to buy it so that we
yeah,
don't have to VE it out. What's the point of having a design conceptual planning to hit a strategic operational goal for this community to
yeah,
then just strip it out?
yeah. Is there a word of advice to put a priority or to hold technology out in these common areas as a priority so that we have a lowered risk of any system becoming
Mhm.
VE'd, or is it
I think it's
people are going to VE whatever they want? I mean, is there a way?
just I think I
Yeah,
understand what you're asking. Is there a way to maybe tackle, reserve, identify in the budget
yeah,
something that won't easily be sliced?
right.
And I would say if you're pricing a project and you get a schedule of values back from a GC or
Yeah,
a developer and they send it over to you for comment, and you've just got Division 26 as one line item and it's $3.2 million.
yeah,
What can your comment be? I mean, seems high, seems realistic. I don't know. I mean, if you don't get a
right.
breakdown of that schedule of values to know what's in there, you your ability to respond and give feedback on it is limited. So
Yeah,
I would say the same thing on the budgeting side is when you're creating a low voltage budget, it should be detailed. It should
yeah,
be detailed to say, hey, I want these things. Don't just say, hey, my low voltage budget is $1.2 million. Okay, well, no, let's dig into that and say structured cabling plant is in there. Let's
yeah,
define your network infrastructure gear. Let's define, I'd say it's, Chad, balancing between Division 26 and Division 27 and 28 for some things like lighting. Obviously,
Yeah.
lighting should sit in Division 26, but when we start talking about smart lighting and
Yeah.
there's some low voltage components that play a role in there too. We want to make sure that we're not double dipping and carrying too heavy of a budget because you need your project to be able to go,
True.
right? You need it to be able to get off the ground.
True.
And if I may, Jill, just jump in and quick with comment on what Matt is saying. So what we see in our projects that we do nationwide is they are divided per division. So Division 26 will be power and lighting, which part of the lighting, as you see in lighting control, would be actually interfaced and carried over with the technology because you interface with the technology. And then we have another Division 28, fire alarm system standalone, all division access control and video surveillance is divided as a lump sum. And then we go into the technology, the structural wiring and all the Wi-Fi and so forth in the third one. So we divide them when we get them for our project. And then we can compare and contrast, and we don't mix them up as one lump sum Division 26. So I agree.
Agreed. Yeah, I would definitely support that. When we do budgeting, we do that. It's the same thing. Our budget is broken down by divisions and by the sections so that it has, we didn't need to reinvent the wheel. CSI already created this for us all to use. So we take advantage of it and say, hey, these are the line items of the budgets that we're carrying. And this
Yeah.
is what we expect to see when we get a bid back or a set of bids back. I think
Yeah.
the other bullet point to the answer of your question, Jill, is how do we make sure that these things stick? Is
Yes.
our job isn't done by just putting a pencil to paper and issuing a set of plans and specs to a project.
Okay.
The other portion is that we're there to manage, like we have the knowledge of what's been selected, what we put on the drawings. If we're not there helping with your construction administration in the project, then who is managing that set of documents? Who is
Yeah.
working with the GC on the buyout of those?
Yeah.
That is a critically important component, is making sure that you've got the right subcontractor vendor buying out the right product, because these plans and specs they require some knowledge of how the systems work. We're
Yeah.
not, this is not how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, including how to go buy and source the bread and where to
Well,
shop.
why
And
can't it be? It should be that easy. No, I have
well, I
another
mean,
question in
yes.
cost too, that we often see, and it's a conflict, but it's that possibility or potential for costs being missed. Who's overlapping
Mm,
installation
mhm,
services versus maybe it isn't covered? You know, how is
mhm.
there advice that either you or Chad you could give in explaining that in early on, or does that clarity come later in the final pricing stage of who's covering what and making sure that no one's duplicating some installation services or avoiding some warranties, etc.? Can you speak on that?
Those are for sure. It's important to start with your budgeting. If you don't have a budget, you're starting behind the eight ball. You're starting
Yeah.
late. You're starting without knowing where you started at. You're
Yeah.
jumping into to figure out and put together the legend.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one. Two, when you get a detailed schedule of values at bid time, then that gives us an understanding of what a GC is carrying.
Yeah.
And I think the other, from the design standpoint, is putting together a responsibility matrix that also is logical, right? And that has the right level of detail, but not too much level of detail. When we've put together a responsibility matrix early on,
Yeah.
I think we went overboard on the level of detail, and you realize as you get into the project, you're like, nobody knows what this thing means. So we made it a bit simpler, and again, also keeping it in line with your CSI and your division junior specs. If the GC can't read it or follow it, then it's a useless piece of information. So those are then I'd still go back to your construction administration phase. Your buyout is critically important for your consultants and engineers to give their feedback on, is this the right thing? Have we bought it out? Have we done duplication? If it's budgeted properly and it's bid properly, the chance of getting that overlap, I think, is greatly reduced. Chad?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Thank you, Matt. The matrix of responsibility we live by in our firm. between the low voltage, the fire alarm, between technology, between access control and cameras, and between the fire alarm people and between the electricians and who's doing what, when, and where. So there's no pointing fingers, and this is not part of my budget, this is part of yours. I always throw these two examples. Conduits and boxes for technology is, we always like these to be done by electrical contractors. We would like the electrical contractors to put them in there. They are the expert in bringing conduits. So we like to put this one in the responsibility matrix. Devices, I'm sure Matt agrees with me. Servers, who's buying the servers? We do a lot of stuff that requires servers, hidden equipment. Yeah, server.
Others.
Yeah. Exactly, others. We say others. Who's the others? The owner? Is the owner purchasing the server, or is the low voltage contract technology? Yeah.
Yes.
So servers in particular, and storage devices for the servers and Wi-Fi devices. Who's purchasing Wi-Fi devices? Is it the owner?
And then who's installing them?
Yeah, installing them, we know, installing them typically, whoever, the low voltage, but who's purchasing these devices?
Yeah.
So I can't agree with more. And in my opinion, being engineers, we have to simplify the matrix of responsibility to make sure the average Joe GC contractor understand it, and we don't talk too much tech, us, Matt and I. So make it down to earth.
Yeah.
The construction workers' language, owners' workers' language. We should never use terminology that the owners would not understand, or if we do, we have to explain it clearly in the matrix.
Yes.
And as engineers and consultants, we're there to represent and support and champion what that owner operator wants. So if we're only engaged to be academic, to produce a set of documents, we always encourage, say, ask the question, well, then who is the person that is going to take this tool, this document that you've paid for, and manage it? Who's going to know it? As long as somebody's doing it, wonderful. But please don't think that the job is done just by producing a set of plans and specifications that can be issued to a GC. Because these days, I've just seen the role of the GC has shifted from the older days to the newer days. It doesn't seem that there's as much ownership on a GC level to understand how the parts and pieces fit together. It seems that they're more of just a coordination, like, hey, it's time to get out here, come out and install this.
Yeah.
But that's really shared from a perspective of low voltage. I think low voltage tends to be a major Achilles heel for a GC because it's not necessarily something in their skill set. It's installed really at the final 5% of the project.
I was going to say later, and
yeah,
exactly. And it's oftentimes not discussed early on.
Right.
So I'm going to share my screen, and I do want to say to anyone listening, if you have any questions, please just type them into chat. And we'll ask them at any time, because this is only
box down there, up
that's
there,
a
wherever you have it. It's the thing.
That's right. So some of these we already talked about, but I just wanted to run through some common topics in our common area. How's that? Common areas and common topics. But planning and intent failures. Chad, you already touched upon this for, well, a little bit on lighting and control. I gave an example here of resident elopement risk versus equipment passage conveniences, or yes.
Those are all great topics. Let's hit them like one at a time as we get down. So for your resident elopement risk versus your passage conveniences. Okay.
Yes.
So we can have a design conversation, but without the operator, we are not going to feel and be able to capture how they plan to secure and protect the residents.
Yeah.
And you guys as architects, designers, you know what that space is. Is it general assembly? What type of construction is it? What can we do to lock or secure or prevent elopements? Sometimes the answer is none, right? And we, in order to select the right systems and technologies, that it's a critical component in order to manage resident elopement.
Matt, if I may, at one point, Jill, if I just want to mention one very big thing for all of us as architects and engineers, whatever system technology we end up with, it has to be simple interface for the user to use it, or it's going to be complicated. Many of us have walked into a clubhouse or into an office and we don't know how to use the
Right.
AV system. We don't know how to hook it up. So
Yep.
whatever technology, the complication that we engineers have should be way back, and the user interface should be big buttons, easy to use,
Yes.
programmed, simple, for be it the technology using the TV or using the monitor or using the lighting control system. For us, lighting control system should be one button, two buttons, very easy to use, and all the complications should be behind the scene where the user will not see it. That is a big
Totally.
deal in what we'll see.
For sure, Chad. And I think the Achilles heel, or the challenge in order to achieve that, in order to accomplish that stupid, simple, easy to use, it's basic.
Yeah.
It's like we've got to remind ourselves who our audience is, who our user is, right? Not only the resident, but we've also got staff and we've got public. So we need to make sure that we keep that in mind. For us, for Tazergy is, because we support open communities, often our finish line is not everybody else's finish line. Our finish line is, maybe we don't ever cross it, because we start from a support standpoint when the building turns into a community, when it turns into the resident home. And so many of these technology systems are things that the installation and infrastructure is one component of what we're doing. To Chad's point, the interface, the automation, the programming, the what do you want this to do? If you've got low voltage lighting and you've got there's a lot of programming that can be done. And automation that we can't write into the plans and specs, right?
Yeah.
We are not writing a detailed programming narrative of how the system is going to be programmed down to the 11th degree, right? That's
and the owners don't care. The owners care about the user interface. They want it very simple. You push a couple of buttons for senior people. It shouldn't be complicated, 15 buttons they have to choose from. It should be in less than one hand, in my opinion, 5 buttons or less. The smaller buttons,
I like
the
that.
better.
I like that philosophy.
One hand or less. So and
we
all
do,
clear,
for sure.
all big buttons, all, we have guys, lighting controller, for example. I found it myself very hard as an engineer to go slide that slider up and down to dim the room. And I'm an engineer. I said, how would the senior person do that? So
absolutely.
very simple. Make it simple.
I love
100%.
it.
And that's
Make it
bullet
simple.
point number, simplicity.
Yeah, I was going to say simplicity.
Simplicity is
ahead.
on there, but we're not. That's a common thread that runs through everything.
Yeah.
If the systems aren't simple to use, don't mistake that for basic. Don't mistake that for lack of functionality. Don't mistake that for subpar. It's that the people who are doing the programming, the installation, the system selection, those people must understand the audience. And I think that's some of the challenge, right?
Yeah.
When a GC is bidding out a project, it's difficult to qualify whether the low voltage subcontractor has an understanding of who the audience is. That's a difficult thing to capture in a set of design docs.
Yeah.
So
I would say on this list, and we're going out of order, but that's how it is. The platforms, the single platform versus multi-platform. To talk about this kind of goes hand in hand with that simplicity, and we were talking internally here about technology and how hospitality is just leaps and bounds ahead of us. We're about 5 years or more behind hospitality, even though we want to emulate hospitality advances. But it seems like personalization and single platform, using one system instead of all these different systems, it gets complicated, and it gets your security of all these different residents, commit.
The challenge, I think the challenge or the sacrifice that can be made if you're going to be a single platform, and you can still just use the example of software.
Yes.
If you're an accounting package and you also have CRM in there, maybe you are accounting group and then you bought a CRM you
Yeah.
might be a single package, but maybe that group doesn't do CRM well. So I would say the concept of a single platform and
Yes.
the results of the single platform is what we need to pursue. I don't think that we need to, I think it's utopian to think that one single platform is going to deliver best
Well,
of breed
right.
across the board. But I think that the reality is we want the ability to use the community as one space.
Yes.
And even if they're different systems, we need those systems to properly feed in so that we have the right awareness of
Yes.
what is going on, right?
Yes.
Access control, you've got resident door locks, you've got perimeter. Those tend to be and can be, we've all been on projects where those are two separate systems, two different
Yeah.
databases, right? And that's a that has happened, but that's a design phase. So
Yeah.
a design phase item that can often be missed
True.
if we don't pay attention to it.
All right.
If I
Uh,
Go
yes,
ahead, Chad.
Chad, go ahead.
I know where, if I may add, I think we should distinguish between the user interface and what's behind the scene
Mhm.
and
Yes.
what the people, the building owners have to maintain. These are two different things. The user interface, where the
Mhm.
seniors, anything that the seniors touch should be completely simple as you can.
Yeah.
Yep,
So you don't complicate
agreed.
their life. Number
Yep,
one. Now, behind the scene, how complicated the system for the operator of that building for the next 100 years or 50 years that we're going to operate this building,
Yeah.
that can be talked to with the ownership.
Mhm.
We always talk to the how complicated your personnel who are managing and programming this system are capable of handling it. So it can go from very complicated if they are good staff who can handle it and program
Yeah.
it, all the way into very, very simple if they don't.
Right. And Chad, that is absolutely a point for everybody to realize is when it comes to low voltage is the question that needs to be asked of the operators is who's going to be supporting this. But I think it's also important for us as designers and consultants to also ask that question and highlight it and say these systems right now is more of a performance spec. If you need something that's more intentional, we might need to look more into a design build. I can tell you from a Tazardy perspective, if we're doing just a performance spec, we can do that. There are certain areas that we say are better, lend themselves to a design build, like a zoned audio. You know,
Hmm.
that is not going to deliver a performance build spec is not going to deliver the same type of results and um,
Yeah.
performance that a design build system would be. And
Yeah.
yet, Jill, as you're talking here, we're going to talk specific things. If you want to take advantage of autonomous machines, and they can be used to clean corridors and hallways,
Yeah.
you could say, hey, we don't need to wait to, we can wait to buy that out until after the project, but then you're not going to have a parking area for them. The
Yeah.
Wi-Fi infrastructure might not exist. So those types of things should be planned for early on in the project to be able to take advantage of them. And by the way, autonomous machines, they're not cheap. None of this stuff is
Oh,
cheap,
I know.
but in order to budget, I think one of the items on the slide before is you don't need to go back
Yeah.
um, was money and utility and efficiency. That's the other thing, you know, that often gets left off the table is what is the operational cost for
Yeah.
this utility item? You know, are we going to be able to have a lower utility bill? And how do we communicate that to an operator? And how does the operator then look for and validate it to make sure that it is that they're getting what they expected?
Yeah. In lieu of time, because I know we're running out of time, I just jumped to this plan to talk briefly about acoustics and hearing aid technology and just
Mhm.
thinking about what technology we can implement. That's an often forgot aid that
Oh,
since
for
that
sure.
seriously helps the life quality of seniors, both in large common areas to help amplify clarity of sound from a vocal or presentation standpoint, all the way to the small group conversations and intimacy.
Absolutely. I mean, technology, it's not only technology, but it's also space planning, right?
Yes.
So if you're going to have sometimes interiors, you can get caught up with the look and feel of it.
Yeah. And
And
then,
often it's forgotten that, oh, this is hard. It's a hard
yeah,
surface and it's creating an acoustically challenging environment.
right.
And I totally agree. We've seen plenty of common areas and amenities that are brutal.
Yeah.
And those types of design conversations, those can be solved academically. They can be solved before the project starts.
Yeah.
For certain, these are things that can be engineered and planned for. They don't
Yeah.
need to be field engineered.
For those
I
of you still
agree
listening,
100%.
yes, we're going to run over about 5 or 10 minutes, but this is pre-recorded or recorded right now and live. And you'd be able to, if you have to jump off right now, you can watch the rest of it online at our sagefederation.org website. So just keep, but hopefully you can stay on with us just for just a few more minutes. The next one, you briefly talked upon it, autonomous machines and planning for them, both in delivery and cleanup robots. So for food service,
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
help and assist a wait staff. And a lot of communities are using these, but still a lot of communities have not considered this yet for cost or whatever reasons there are.
Mhm.
But autonomous machines or robots for cleaning floors, both carpets and hard surface, after hours maintenance, and then delivery service machines. Some very high-end CCRCs are using them for
Package
convenience.
delivery or,
Yeah,
getting things from point A to point B.
nice.
All of those, yes, all of
Yeah,
those things require infrastructure, connectivity,
yeah,
space planning, and
yeah,
none of them are cheap,
yeah,
but it, they are worth looking at. And
yeah,
if you, I think the challenge for us as designers, in order for us to say that this is worth it, the operator has to tell us what the labor differential would be.
yeah,
And I want to make sure that people understand here, technology is not meant to eliminate people. It's meant to elevate people
elevate.
interaction.
Absolutely.
Technology is meant to elevate your team's interaction with,
Yeah,
or not necessarily our team here, but the operator's team. It's the community team elevating that interaction with the residents. So if you don't have to have somebody vacuuming the hallways after hours and the
yeah.
autonomous machines take care of it, they're going to happen. It's going to get vacuumed. It might get vacuumed better and you don't have to worry about whether it's done or not. And they won't call in sick.
And it's going to be with least disruption. But
Yes,
and
right.
we've mentioned on other tech talks that there's other convenience
Mhm.
machines that can help by thumbprint and activation, just to
Mhm.
ease staff's involvement or interaction with data and billing and etc. All right, I'm going to jump to this other one and again talk
And
quickly. Fall risk
as you
mitigation.
do, yes, all of these things, the people who need to participate in these in order to fully solve the problem better. And Jill, like you're talking about from hospitality, how do
Yes.
we how do we catch up? How do we,
Yes.
close the gap there? It's our operators need some help. But they also need to participate. None of this stuff can be things that we just spec and get installed, and they need to do nothing
Yes.
for it.
Yes.
They play a very important role in
Yeah.
helping select, but also validating that we've got the right system from an administration standpoint and
Yeah.
that they understand what it takes, like to Chad's point, what it takes to support this so that
Yeah.
they can know, oh, yeah, my technology team might not be able to support it. How do we support it? Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's plan for that now instead of later when it's open.
Yeah.
And
And
then,
we met one
yeah,
thing, if I may, for technology too, is the longevity of the technology. We've been with a client where we buy a lighting control system, and then 2 years from now, they're no longer in business. So you can't find replacement parts, and that's
right.
really kind of aggravating. You have to buy another system. I have to do the systems, and it
I'd
becomes
say
more
it's very
complicated.
aggravating. Yes,
Across the board for all technology. All right, to
yes.
expedite our conversation, I have this floor plan up, but we can talk about other technologies in this space. But it's a basic dining room in a common area space, and I
Mm,
just wanted to make sure people are aware that if you haven't ever used a dining robot, etc., to help and assist the staff in these areas, you can have a dining room layout and you can even max out the space and put very tiny clearances from the back of chair to the next back of chair and just allow the very minimal amount of space that you can
mm,
squeeze, we could pack them in here. But as we found when planning ahead, if you're going to be using a dining robot or consider it, you need to be sure that you're planning ahead for paths of travel for that robot. I hate to just keep saying robot, but robot to approach, and that would be the main
Autonomous
paths.
machine.
Yeah, autonomous machine. There you go. To deliver food. They don't plate it on the table, of course. They carry the plates of food for or alongside the staff that
Mhm.
walk alongside, and then they're able to hold it, and then the staff then plate it on the tables, and then they can also switch. That's a clean delivery to the dirty delivery, back to the charging station to sit and wait for dinner to be done, and changes modes from delivery of food to busing. And so you've got these paths of travel, like I said,
Mhm.
allowance in the space. It adds, what I'm getting at is we're talking about technology, but from a planning standpoint, we need to be able to have that square footage planned for in these spaces
Mhm.
that
Or
is
you're going
like,
to have to VE out the,
that's right.
Yep.
You won't
you're
have
going to
this.
VE out something. You're going to lose some seating capacity, or you're going to lose
Yep.
the
That's
ability to take
that's
advantage of a tech.
that's exactly what I'm getting at is that's the topic, is that you need to have the square
Mhm.
footage that can accommodate these robots, even if you're planning for them in 2 to 5 years or
Mhm.
something. You're not going to change your physical walls. And then also to have those charging stations, those conversations with
Yeah.
the charging station. Anyway,
And all of these for our we want technology to help increase the operating margin.
yeah,
If you VE out the upfront purchase, if you VE out a system, then
yeah,
you're going to be falling back on your expensive system, which is pure labor. Purely labor is what we're doing, and that's it. So in order to be more intelligent, more strategic, and to get better margins, we need
yeah,
to leverage technology. We need to pay attention to location tracking. We need to pay attention to how we can take advantage of autonomous machines. We need to pay
yes,
attention to utility. We need to pay attention to systems that are efficient and economical all around, and that are simple interfaces to use, that are not complicated. Because a lot of systems can do this, but
yeah,
then it requires more labor to run it.
yeah,
That's not where we want to go. Just like Chad was saying, like you need to make sure what those things are and
yes,
how to run it.
and
100%.
personalization, trying to
Mhm.
emulate, that hospitality, like in every way,
Mhm.
it's just, yeah, so much to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening in and staying with us, even though we ran over a little bit. We haven't identified our next date for our next tech talk, have we, Matt? Do you have that? Or
No, not
Lori?
yet.
I don't
I
think we
don't think.
have that. We
Um,
appreciate
I
all
think
of
we
you
do.
listening in, and at the conclusion of this, I think you're going to be prompted
Yes.
by a survey. I think that always happens. So we thank you. We hope you chime in on the next one. Let us know if you have other topics that you want us to discuss specifically on technology, and we'll adapt our talk around that subject matter. So thank you so much. And again, from on behalf of Sage, thank you all, and thank you speakers. Thank you, Chad and Matt. So, all right.
Thank you for
Thank you,
joining us.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you,
Yep.
Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill and Lori, for your organization.
Yes.
Thanks.